Hello viewers, welcome to ASP.NET Web API project. This is our front-end project. End of this tutorial, you will learn how you can build ASP.NET Web API project like this screen, which I build using admin LTE theme. So in this project, I will definitely explain three different projects. So first one is like model DLL library core data. Second one is ASP.NET Web API, and third one is like front-end project which is built using ASP.NET MVC with the help of JavaScript and jQuery. So this is the complete ASP.NET MVC MVC front-end project, and backend is ASP.NET Web API, and the middle project is like .NET class library for model and model view. So this is the UI. After exploring or learning this project, end of this video you can perform this full this UI operation. This is complete ASP.NET Web API based user management system. So let me go back to the project and explain one by one. And this is our API project with Swagger UI. So as we can see, here is a list of API document API, and we can check the API operation here. This is the Swagger documentation for API project. And if I close the project, so we have three different project. API project, middle project is data coded data for model and model view, and third one is like front-end project ASP.NET MVC with Razor, jQuery and JavaScript for front-end operation. And if I going to explain the project architecture, so we have I have hosted this application into Linux Ubuntu. So we have consider two server, or you can install into one server like for demo purpose. But I would like to suggest please host into different server database into one server. Front-end is one server and API is another server. So this is API server and front-end server and database server. So you can host, I hosted everything in one server for demo purpose, but you have to for good practice you need to create three different server: API, front-end and database server. So API is common project, so using this API project you can consume the mobile app as well, also the front-end operation and front-end project. So and front-end project is main user is desktop user, web application, and the mobile app is mobile user. And with the help of front-end server, front-end will request the API server, and API server will communicate with the database server. So this is the common the very basic overview of this project. So and I build this project using .NET SDK 8.0. So first I'm going to explain the required NuGet packages. So you have to install required NuGet packages. As let me just explain first DLL library project for managing model and model view. Also in this project we manage the application DB context and migrations. So most of the required packages you have to install under this project coded data. So you have to install Entity Framework Core, SQL Server and Tool. This is the Entity Framework Core common common NuGet libraries. So you can install in this DLL library project only, and HTTP for requesting the HTTP request. And first one almost done for model project required NuGet packages, and second one is API project. We need to install just JWT BRR and documentation for these packages. 6.4.0 is good enough. And last and final project is front-end project. We have to install some NuGet packages here as well. REST server for API client requesting the API. Using this library we can write less code and every time we do not write the repetitive code if we use this library, and this is very popular and common library. And second one is runtime compiler for front-end project. Every time you do not need to change and run project again, it will help for compiling runtime. Dynamic link core for link queries, and UI parser, some other operation, browser base, and sanitization for security purpose. So these are the things, common NuGet packages. You have to install 3 different projects, and you have to include the model project as well into the front-end project, also into the back-end project. So class libraries middleman project, so you have to incorporate add reference into front-end and back-end project. So second things, we have to make sure DB connection. So into the front-end, into the API project app setting.json file, please note that this project is supported multiple database, SQL Server, MySQL, and PostgreSQL as well. So here I make sure 2 different connection string. First one is SQL Server authentication, no credentials, so using the Windows authentication, and second one is SQL Server authentication. So if you make sure the right database and pass your connection string name here, then you have to make sure you have to make sure application DB context. If here is the listed tables, and for application into the listed tables for performing migrations and update database. And once you have done and configure application DB context, you have to initialize it into program.css. First you have to make sure connection is string and pass the connection string into SQL Server. So using builder instance, you have to make sure application DB context dependency injection here. So once we have done, then the other dependency as well, like other interface, I have created role services, post services, common services, account services, email sender services, function service, and repository for all CRUD operation. And so if we done this configuration properly, then we can move to the jump to the database migration. So database migration is pretty simple. Using the terminal, you can make sure the database migration. I already add the database migration command here. So using these 2 command, you can create migration, like install packages, DB migration. Using package manager console, you can this command also from terminal. Right click into the project and open in terminal. Pass and run these 2 command. It will first create the migration, and then it will create database and execute the seeded data. So our database is ready, also the test data is ready into the SQL Server. Then if we run the project for testing purpose, then we will get this screen. Let me run and check again. Project is running. Here we can see, like using the port number 5031 for project 1, and the second project is the API project for 5029 for Swagger documentation. Sorry, taking extra time because running the recording, so resources using 100% almost. Thank you for your patience. So if I log in again, then it will redirect to the dashboard. So default dashboard, this application is the complete user management solution. So you can use this template as a API starter kit. That's why I named this project like API starter kit, like common operation, like It will minimize the development time, like creating migration, database connection, string, model project, front-end project, and the CRUD operation into the and like API client, requesting API with the proper API client libraries. So this is the final output of this project. Now I'm going to explain one complete CRUD operation so that you can get a total idea of this project. If I jump to the API starter kit and controller, I will explain the department API controller. So here is the API controller, and first you have to inject the repository. So using the repository pattern, I make sure the complete CRUD operation. So you just pass the class name, so generic repository. So using this instance, you can easily create perform the CRUD operation. So first one is like get all async, second one is get by id using department repository, and third one is get by passing the parameters department name, and add edit operation. If it is add operation, then it will consider like id is greater than 0, and if it is add operation, it will id less than 1, which will be 0. So the new operation, and edit operation id is greater than 0, and finally is delete operation. So you have to make sure or configure route get all. So you will request like API slash controller name department API slash get all, then you will you can get the entire department list. So generic repository, so if we go to the generic repository, for first we have a interface class like method name and the implementation into the repository class. So using this two repository class, we can easily perform CRUD operation by avoiding repetitive code. So here is the department complete CRUD operation into the API part. Now I am jumping to the front-end part, how we can absorb this API using the front-end and get data and finally display into the front-end view. So first I'm going to controller and the department controller. Here is my department controller. So here is the same things. Also I have used here generic repository, also the department. Let me initialize the API client services. So using this instance, and you have to initialize the token services using with the help of JWT token based authentication. In this application we implemented JWT for token based authentication. So and the sub URL for passing the right URL for requesting the right API. So first one is initialize the index, and we are requesting the token, and if it is not null, if it is null or empty, then it will going to login screen, and if we have a token, then it will redirect to index page, and this method is get data table for grid view data. And if I going to the details, so department API get by, so here I pass the ID and pulling the data and passing into the department CRUD view. So this is for DTO. So we did not use third-party mapping like mapping library, so we use custom mapping library. If we go to this class, then we can see how we can perform the mapping operation. So we have a main class like department class, and department is mapped to the CRUD view, and CRUD also mapped to the department. So two-way mapping, we make sure the mapping here for every class, we make sure this common operation. And if we back to the details, so first we pass the URL, and using the API client services, so this is the client REST client. If we go to the get by implementation, then we have a like API client services and API client interface. So here we have defined the method get all, get by, get all view and get by ID, update, delete. And if we go to the API client service implementation, then we can see first we getting the token, and if it is valid, then it will request by passing the add header, and finally take the response. So if it is valid response and take the expected data, then it will return the return VM view to the details. So then we can get the expected data and for view into the controller, into the front end view. And last one is another more important things I need to explain, which is JWT. So let me explain the login screen, then we can understand account controller. So if when I request the login, then it will go to the with the proper username and password. First it will load the UI. If it is user not sign out, then you make sure the sign out, and then it will request with username and password. Login view contain username and password. So first we make sure the encryption for more secure this application. So we send the encrypted password to the server, then we decrypt so that we can get the right password. Then we request the token response. If it is token not null and the status code is success, then it will go to the handle successful login. If we go to this definition, go to this implementation, then handle successful operation, what I perform, like using token response and public API, other things like user login successfully and get API info, then finally passing the other information, and finally pass the JSON result. For loading the view, API client service share data, so this service makes sure the front end menu and the accessibility role based access control. And if we go to the login screen again, so if we get the right access token, and let me go to the get token by user credentials, go to implementation. So here I make sure the token, so authentication API login using this URL. And if we go to the authentication API and login operation from the front end project, authentication API and login. So with the login view model and auth service and login request, if we go to the implementation, here is the login request. First we checked if username is valid or not. So then we check the two-factor authentication is enabled. So one more things, let me give you the overview. This application is supported two-factor authentication. This recently I implemented two-factor authentication in this project. Also implemented additional security for make sure this application more secure, and hacker cannot hack our system. So by make suring the encrypted password, also the front end validation, we minimize the hacker bad request, so that our application make sure the more secure. And the two-factor authentication, and if everything success, then process to successful login. This is the common method. Go to implementation. Here we make sure the token, generating the JW token, generating JW token. If it is successful login, then we generate token and pass to the token into the user. And let me just run the project and generating the token with the valid username and password, so that we can understand the more clearly how we generate token and validate the user login access. So our API project is ready. In this using this documentation project, we are going to test the token. So authentication, login. I'm going to request with valid username and password, so that we can get the token. Username admin @gmail.com. Sorry, and the password is 123. Let me try with wrong password, 1232. Execute. Then what happened? So it is the response, invalid password. So if we pass the right password and try again, hopefully this time we will get the expected response. Yes. So we get the access token with the status message success, also the additional data for performing and generating the role based access and menu for admin management. So here is our initial login request. So I'm going to summarize and closing this video. So hopefully you will get minimum overview and minimum understand coding flow. So we have 3 different projects, and in this video I already explained the initial required NuGet packages, make sure the database connection, and finally create migration and update database, and generic repository, and consume the API using the REST client, also the one complete CRUD operation. So if you like this video and tutorials and wanted to explore this project, and if you think this project is helpful for you for initialize any project or learning purpose, then you can go to here for get entire project. So you can go to this let me run again, so that using I will share the details link, so that you can get the entire project course from there, project source code from there into the code canyon, and you can explore this project. So, and before closing this video, I'm sorry for some video recording. I did not record the video properly, some communication gap, also the some need to improvement. So I'm trying to, so hopefully in the next video we will improve better. And please support by subscribe and like this video, so that we can motivate it and add more video like this. Thank you. And if you're interested to get this entire project source code, just go to here. I'll share the live demo link. So I already hosted this application into live server, so that you can check the entire application demo. And if you're interested, then just go to the code canyon for API starter kit. So this is here you can get this entire project source code with the proper documentation, and also this is the architecture overview of this project. So thank you again, and hopefully see you in the next video.